Alright, welcome back. Today we're going to be finishing the front accessories. We're going to get the ignition module hooked up. We're going to get the alternator going. We're going to hook up the belt. And if we have enough time in this episode, we're going to get the oil drained, new filter, and maybe get it started. I don't know if it'll work on this video, if we can get it all done in about 15 minutes. But if not, the next video will be the finale for the timing chain and the fuel system and everything else we've done so far up to this point. We will be getting on to the valve cover gaskets, and I got a couple other jobs on this, but I'm going to wait till a later date to do those videos. I think people are probably getting tired of seeing the Oldsmobile videos. I think we need to kind of diversify a little bit, but they will be coming out. They are going to be recorded after this job is done, but I've got some other videos I do want to get out. I got some Chevy truck videos to do. I've got a Subaru power steering pump video to do. Got some work to do on the old Nissan and whatever else we decide to throw in there at the time. So let's get at it. First thing I'm going to put in is going to be the belt. I can't finish up the engine bracket, or the front engine torsional bracket as they call it, until we get the belt in, because with this design, can't change the belt unless you actually pull this slug and bolt out. So that's got to get done first before we go any farther. If you haven't changed your belt in a long time, this would be a good time to do it. Well, we changed this belt about 5,000 miles ago, so we're going to go ahead and reuse it.
Oh, that would be a good idea.
Well, these belts designed to last 70,000 miles.
Yeah. Sounds like it's at its last legs.
No, belt's good. How you can tell if your belt is good, there shouldn't be any cracks. And this belt, like I said, is about 5,000 miles old, so no worries, reuse it. And I'm going to show a diagram now of how the belt should be installed, at least on this series. There are some variants out there. We've got the Pontiac series to kind of do things a little different. Different body style. Alright, we got something going goofy here. Let's see what it is. Alright, so it comes around the water pump, goes to the tensioner, back to the power steering pump. Now, the way I usually do it, so I'll put around everything except for the alternator because it's the smallest pulley. Alright, we're good. All we gotta do is get our 15 mil. Now this is the part where it can get tricky if you're going to be doing this one-handed with one guy.
I'm sure you can do it.
Oh, I've done it a ton. Make sure everything's lined up.
You said there's supposed to be no cracks, right? What's that in the middle there?
What?
Is that just chewed up?
Well, there's a point when they both come together, but not where the cracks we need to worry about are inside on the pulleys, not on the outside.
Maybe that's like the tension.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of tension on this. Okay, need a little bit more. Alright, just like that, that job's done.
Oh, I see.
Okay, everything's good to go on the belt. Now we can put the bottom bolt back in for the engine mount. Alright, insert your slug. There we go. Now just chase it back in. Alright. Then with your Torx driver, drive it back in. Now this bottom one's actually a little bit bigger than the first two up top. And you just want to go until it stops. This is kind of long-winded, so be here for a minute. Alright, just about there. And this bolt we're going to do at about 45 foot-pounds. Okay. Besides the oil filter, the bottom side of this job is done. Moving up to the top. Okay, next we're going to hook the alternator up while we're thinking about it. Now you do not want to over tighten this back nut. You do want it tight, but not over tight. That is a 13 mil, but we'll do that by hand. Alright, hook your regulator back up. Alright, alternator's done. Check. Alright, the last two remaining bolts besides the bracket that goes here, other than that, we're about done. You know, besides oil change, valve cover gaskets, and a couple other things, but done with the timing chain job anyways. Timing cover gasket. Alright, at this point, you got to make sure when you install this ground is hooked up. Now, in previous models, there were 2 or 3 grounds here. The grounds do vary per year. GM, in their infinite wisdom, over time got it down to 1 ground. And I'm sure eventually after that, I haven't worked on a 2003 yet, but they might have gotten it to where the ground is part of the bracket. So when I put this ground back together, I'm actually going to put it like this. So it grounds to the block of the ignition module, grounds to the bolt to the block, and we have a good ground connection. Very important on these Chevys, Oldsmobiles 3/8 to have that ground connection. Original 3800s actually had this in the back towards the exhaust manifold, and they found that wasn't the best place for them. Obviously all the residual heat from the exhaust manifold cooked a lot of these, so they moved it.
So what, they have a better lifespan?
Yeah, because in the first generations, we call the 3.8, not the 3800, they had problems with them, and then they put them in the back so they get hot. They would cook wires, they'd cook modules, and this used to be just one giant Magnavox coil pack before they're individualized.
Probably have this survive for quite a while.
Yep.
Take care of it.
And then these will go bad, but they usually do it when they're about 100,000 miles. You'll get one coil pack go bad, and what's nice is you can change the 6.3, the 2.5, or the 4.1. I have to go short on that one, the air conditioning line in the way. It's not a bad engine to work on. I mean, there's some things you gotta have specialty tools for, but other than that, it's pretty user friendly. Now I'll tighten this to about 40 foot-pounds, like most of the accessories on here. Alright, the last piece that needs to go on before we can move on to the oil change is this bracket that supports the ignition module to the alternator. Nothing to it. This is the last piece of hardware it's got to go on, and this job will be done. Not really much to it. And that's the last 2 bolts remaining. At this point, you shouldn't have any extra parts. Now if you do, you can go back through the video and find out what part you're missing.
What if the part they're missing is not in the video?
Then they tore apart something that I didn't.
They don't exactly have the same model.
Well, you're right. They might be working on a 98 Bonneville at 3.8.
I've always wondered, because you work on specific cars, what if they don't have a specific car?
Well, the one thing with GM...
But they have the motor.
Right, I was going to say, the one thing with GM is interchangeability. Like, I can take parts from a Bonneville or a LeSabre. They'll work in here. Like the intake manifold, fuel injectors. Alternators may vary. Water pump may be the same.
You're looking at the belt, but it said Pontiac, and I was like...
Yeah, Pontiacs use this engine too.
Oh my God,
This is known as a BOP engine, Buick, Olds, Pontiac. So you can see them in all three. There's even time the 3.8 showed up in some Camaros.
Yeah, it's a Buick, it's a Pontiac, what is it? It's confusing.
It can be. Now this bottom bolt you're going to have to hit with a 15 deep.
Sounds like a note on a guitar.
15D. Missing the F chord.
Yeah. You know, people can use that as... I can't say that.
Alright, we're going to go about 37 foot-pounds like the rest of this.
Cut this out, but you could use that as a silencer.
Yeah. Alright, 37 foot-pounds in these two bolts. Other than that, the engine repair is complete. Now we can move on to the oil change and get some coolant in this thing, start it up, and then move on to the next project. Sounds fun, don't it? Alright, see you down below. Alright, so get a 15 mil. Very important you change the oil after this service. Oh, wow, I didn't want that. Guess we'll just leave the socket on it until we're done, huh? And this is about a 5-quart system, so make sure you got a 6-quart pan.
Is it coming out?
There we go. The oil doesn't look too bad. As I said before, you do want to change the oil 500 miles after the timing chain service to make sure that, you know, any contaminants, any pre-lube, you get all that stuff out so you can get on to normal oil, whether you use a conventional, semi-blend, synthetic. My general practice is I like a semi-blend, so it's half conventional and half synthetic. I've seen some problems with synthetic. There's some people that argue that it doesn't hurt gaskets. It does hurt gaskets. I just go right in the middle. It's easier that way. A lot less conflict. And we cleaned up a lot of the oil down here. It took us about a day of cleaning, but we're going to see if that oil pan gasket will actually hold. It's not too bad to do. The starter does have to come out of the way. Pretty standard gasket job though. It's another one of those no RTVs use. It's a baffle gasket. And the nice thing with the car being up in the air too, it forces the engine back a little bit, at least by height, and it pushes all that crap down and out through the hole. Very happy with the way that oil looks. It means it didn't get too contaminated. Kind of like watching paint dry. Okay, she's down to final drips. Alright, we'll snug that up. Not too tight. You don't want to over torque that. Alright, clean up any residual oil. And next we can install the oil filter. Now you want to make sure you choose a high performance oil filter. Now I do have a Fram Tough Guard here, so this is kind of the middle of the road. And for all those who want to give me crap about using Fram, I've been using them for 20 years, have yet to lose an engine. I don't understand how a guy can take a bandsaw, cut these, and say they're crap. It's beyond me, but anyway, use whatever you're going to use. Make sure it's premium grade, especially for the first time out after a major repair. You want to catch as much particulate that you can't get out as possible, and the Tough Guard, at least for me and as far as my experience, has worked really good. We do pre-fill them first before we stick them up. Now, being that this does set a bit of an angle in there, we'll take the little bit that's on top, lubricate your O-ring. You don't want to fill this thing completely to the top, so I have about a 3/4 rule. I don't like making a mess with oil, kind of messy. Alright, let's install the oil filter now. Now, as you've seen, a little bit of oil did dribble out, like I said it would. But the point is to have something in there so it's not a dry start. And just clean it up, no big deal. Alright. About 3/4 past stop, call that good. You don't want to over tighten these. They can be difficult to come back off, just remember that. Other than that, ready to stick 4.5 quarts through the system, and that'll be about that. Then we'll get some coolant, start it up, and away we go.